जिंदगी का सफर है ये कैसा
So welcome everyone to the third stop in our journey through ancient Indian cultural history. Today, our train of thought is going to make a nice, luxurious stop in one of the most ancient and venerated phases of the Hindu cultural tradition, and this is the ancient religious culture of the Vedas. We're actually going to be spending the next 4 units on this complicated topic, believe it or not, and you'll be exposed to a lot of different important Sanskrit terms and concepts, so do make sure that you're ready for it. Now, Vedic culture is one of the oldest parts of a kind of tangled set of traditions that fall under a general umbrella called Hinduism. This religion is really hard to define, and actually maybe all religions are hard to define ultimately, like in a single sentence. But here's one way I like to think about Hinduism. Hinduism isn't an organized religion with like a pope and a church and a Bible. Instead, it's more like a giant shopping center, a mall, or maybe more like a bazaar, actually, if you've ever been to India, or a farmer's market here in Vancouver, or like the Richmond night market, maybe. It's a crowded, bustling space where different vendors, different purveyors of religious experience, are like jostling and elbowing each other trying to get your attention. These are the different Hindu schools, the traditions, the sects, or sampradayas as they're called in Sanskrit. These sampradayas compete with one another for patronage, and it often seems like they might have actually totally contradictory messages. New ones are popping up all the time. Old ones sometimes are like running out of business. Sometimes they merge together with their competitors to form new sects, right? Or sometimes they rebrand themselves as new traditions. But in general, these sects, schools, sampradayas mostly tend to get along with each other all within that big umbrella of Hinduism. So within that large, thronging marketplace called Hinduism, the oldest and most venerated store is the Vedic religious tradition. It's not actually the most widespread or even the most popular Hindu tradition. In fact, the vast majority of Hindu practitioners have little or no idea how to conduct a Vedic rite or how to chant a Vedic mantra. And they definitely know almost nothing about why it's good to do so. They just have faith that since the Vedic rituals are the oldest and the most sacred, they're important. Right? Vedic religion is Hinduism in its most archaic form, a way of life that was in vogue thousands of years ago, roughly during the time between 1500 to 500 BCE. Today, only a very small minority of Brahmin priestly communities all across India continue to practice Vedic rituals in the same way that their ancestors did 3,000 years ago. It's an unbroken Vedic tradition, and it garners great respect among the general Hindu practitioners, even if they don't themselves do the Vedas. Maybe it's kind of like an old-fashioned jewelry shop in the mall. It's been there forever. You never really see a lot of people go in, but it still survives somehow, and everyone respects the hell out of it, right? The few people who do go in there, they're like really, really dedicated customers. So these Vedic Brahmins have maintained an unbelievably strict fidelity to their very ancient texts, using highly advanced techniques of oral recitation and memorization, so that even today, Vedic Brahmins carry in their heads the exact same texts that Vedic Brahmins had in their heads in 1000 BC. There are no other traditions in the history of humanity that have preserved their oral scriptures in such a precise and sophisticated way for such a long time. And I'm not at all exaggerating when I say this. So in this unit, we're going to kind of cover 5 different topics. Segment 1 takes a broad look at Vedic culture and thought. Segment 2 will go over 3 periods of Vedic history. Segment 3 will go through what the 4 Vedas are all about. And segment 4 will look at 4 different kinds or layers of texts that are found in each Veda. In the last segment of the unit, we're going to kind of drill into how those Vedic Brahmins back then and even today are managed to recite and memorize these massive Vedic texts so precisely. In future sessions, we'll be looking at the mythology of the Vedas, and then we'll turn to how the Vedic ritual worked. So let's take a deep breath and get set for our plunge into an ancient, unique, and utterly fascinating religious culture as we travel back to the year 1500 BC into the heart of the Punjab to see what the Veda was all about.